everyone, and welcome to this review of the Honda Civic Type R. This is the FK8 Honda Civic 2019 model in championship white. I've owned the car for about 6 months now. I've added about 8,000 kilometers on it, and I think I'm ready to make a review, a long-term review on my experience, what I liked, what I didn't like about the car. And not to be clickbaity, but I'm also going to tell you why I'm selling it. There is a reason I actually am selling it. So I got this car in November 2021 last year, used with about 35,000 kilometers. I'm not a car reviewer or anything, so don't have too much experience with performance cars or expensive cars like this. It is an expensive car for me. I'm coming from a Toyota Camry hybrid, so this is a totally different experience coming into the hot hatch world. Also, not a professional YouTuber, as you can tell, so I'm just recording this raw, unedited on my phone, mounted to my door, my passenger door. So please don't expect any fancy cinematography or perfect audio. I'm using my phone's microphone. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna tell you everything straight from the heart, unscripted. This car is the best car I've ever driven. I mean, it's simply is phenomenal. It's the biggest purchase I've ever made as well, so that's something to keep in mind. It's been a joy to own. I honestly think so, and it's just every time I get in, it's an instant smile. I want to drive everywhere with this car. It makes errands a non-issue for me, so it just makes you want to drive places even when you don't need to. It's incredible, I think. It's also my first manual, so I'm not perfect with my shifts or smooth with my operation of the clutch, but I am trying. I have learned on a Ford Focus, a cheaper beta car that my brother got just to practice manual. So I'm decent. I have stalled a couple times, but this guy's so easy to live with that it's not easy to stall if you know what you're doing. Alright, let's try to make this review semi-structured. I'm gonna go from the outside, go into the inside, what I like, what I don't like, and then with why I'm selling it. Expect this video to be long and a bit rambly. That's just the nature of me and my videos. I apologize if that offends you. Okay, I think the car looks amazing. For me, I don't mind the childish Gundam styling. I don't mind the angles and the sporty wing and all the winglets and the body kit. I really don't. I think it looks amazing. I think it's the best looking hot hatch, honestly. If you compare it to the Golf R, compare it to the GI Airs, you compare it to the i30, and I think it looks the best out of all of them. I'll have it in championship white, which I think is the color to get. It just makes everything accentuated. It has a good contrast with the black trim and the splitters, etc., and the diffuser on the back. And I think it's easier to maintain compared to black, for sure. In Australia, the 2019 is the pre-facelift model, so we don't have the updated up until 2021. The car is warm now. I have been driving it for about 5 minutes now, so I can sort of get on the throttle somewhat. Nothing crazy until it's properly warmed up. I like to take care of my cars. I'm on the highway now, approaching 100 kilometers an hour, so I'll try to raise my voice. I know that it gets pretty loud from the phone's perspective. Right. Yeah. I really like the exterior, and yeah, I don't think possible to not lose money owning this car. So I've owned it for 6 months, not a very long amount of time, and I've added 8,000 kilometers to it. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it is a pain when you're trying to buy a car. It's like, oh, it's a very expensive initial purchase. But if you think about the future, it's also very easy to sell and very easy to get back what you paid for. Going into the interior, I think it looks good as well. It is red everywhere, as you can see. And look, I'm sure you've seen more reviews, a million reviews, like I did when I was looking for the car and looking for people's experiences. This video is just going to tell you like the raw experience from a user's perspective and not so much good visual cinematography. So I can't show you the interior or the exterior properly and the parts that I like about it, but in short, the interior is really good. I have no problems with it apart from the infotainment, which everyone likes to bash, and I think that's warranted. The materials are nice generally, not a lot of scratchy plastic, not that you will touch everything, so I'm never going to touch this part of the glove box or this part of the door handle. What you can touch is nice soft leather here on the arm sort of window where you can rest your arm. Ooh, a Golf R. Let's see if he does a pull. No, he's not doing a pull. Seats are very comfortable. They're red. They're race seats essentially, but they're very, very comfortable. As comfortable as my Camry is. Very supportive. A lot of lumbar, and not a lot of lumbar actually, but a lot of side support as well, so you don't move left and right. I am a skinnier person, only 70 kilograms, 180 centimeters tall, 178. So I'm not the biggest person, but I think it would be good for even chubbier people. Steering wheel is a very nice leather. It is not too soft, unfortunately, so it's sort of almost hard-ish. It is leather, but I believe it's genuine leather as well, not a cheap vinyl. But yeah, I wish it was a bit more padded, a bit more softer. Sometimes I wish it was heated, but that's not a priority in a race car, essentially. Gear knob is aluminum, very nice to hold, very good size, I would say. And it's cold in the morning, maybe that would be an issue. It isn't for me. And I haven't had too many days where it was scorching hot, because I haven't driven this car in the summer too much, but I assume it will be hot to the touch if you leave it out in the summer, which I don't. Yeah, so I'm generally happy with the interior. The digital display is very nice here in the dashboard. It's a good resolution and a good refresh rate. I think it would benefit from more customization. I can't really customize much other than the color if you change the drive modes and the information in this center. So you have your fuel consumption, boost gauge, average speed, etc. Stopwatch you have as well, G-forces, let's see, throttle and brake, turbo, red line indicator, G-forces, stopwatch, fuel consumption, and seat belts, and I think maintenance and music and phone and navigation. I have it in, I'm boring, so I have it in fuel consumption most of the time. I like to aim for a good fuel consumption, even though I like to drive spiritingly sometimes. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it's okay. Yeah, it's pretty good actually, not just okay. It's a nice mix of modern and simple. This on the other hand, not the best part of the car. It's actually one of the most frustrating things I found about the car. As much as I was when I was looking at the reviews at first, I'm like, oh, it can't be that bad. It's just a slider. But it is very, very annoying. Not a deal breaker, but very, very annoying. I do listen to sort of music most of the time. I'm currently plugged into my phone with USB, so if I turn on the infotainment, it will go into Android Auto, which might cause problems for my camera recording at the moment, which I won't get into. But yeah, it's frustrating trying to change the volume very quickly. I use the steering wheel most of the time. The steering wheel does have pretty much everything I want, like the next and previous, volume, information of the information screen, cruise control, steering assist, and phone buttons here. So I don't really use the volume knob here, but when I do, it's really frustrating because you slide up, you go from volume and you slide up, you touch home while it's lighting up. So if you start, it activates home. So just changing the volume, you can leave the menu or go to the home screen by accident. It's very frustrating, and it's not responsive, nor is it smooth. So I don't understand why they chose this. At least if they chose a touch slider, they could have made it, you know, longer or prevent accidental touches. But it doesn't prevent accidental touches. The moment you get off the volume area, it starts activating other buttons as well, like the power and the home button. But I think infotainment is not a strength for this car generally. It's not something that bothers me too much. I use Android Auto. It works fine. Actually, it works pretty good most of the time. It is frustrating sometimes with Waze. You have to. It's better to type on your phone because the screen here is not very big and it's not very responsive. So when you do go to type something up, you only have one search result at a time at the top. So you have the keyboard and then one slice of search results. Acreage, shall we say. So I usually just put the address on my phone on Waze, plug it in, and then go that way. Spotify works fine. There is no equalizer, unfortunately. I'm not sure why Honda decided to not put an equalizer, but there's no equalizer on this car. I mean, even my Camry, even a Corolla does have an equalizer where you can change the boost and the treble, the bass boost and the treble. The speakers sound okay, nothing mind-blowing, but I've never listened to the car like, oh, that's horrible. Sometimes, very rarely, there's some music sections of songs that I listen to that have bass hits the right frequency to make one of the speakers rattle, but that's very rare and happens very few and far in between. So that's that. Otherwise, the car is very comfortable to live with. Going into what I like about the features of the car, it has all the fancy features like adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist here in Australia. We've had it since 2017. In the US and Canada, they only had it in the uplifted model in 2019 or 2020. We've had it since 2017. Everything. Parking sensors, beautiful front and rear. Auto hold, brake hold, hill hold, electronic brake, drive mode selector. Accident prevention, all that, the whole thing. The only things that it misses out on compared to like a Golf R is self-parking ability, which I don't think I would ever use, and traffic assist with the stop start. So it's a manual car, it doesn't really let you do cruise control below 30. But otherwise, I'm very happy with the car. You know, 9.9 times out of 10, or 99 times out of 100, it works fine. You know, it detects the lanes if there's reasonable lane markings. It detects the car in front of me. The only times where it doesn't, you know, perform well is if it's really, really sunny. Sometimes it doesn't see the road marking. You know, if it's like just sunset or sunrise and the sun is very low on the horizon and you're facing it, the cameras and sensors don't work properly. Also, when it's really heavy rain, the lane keep assist doesn't keep up, which is very silly. I think what happens is the wipers wipe over the windscreen and the cameras are on the windscreen. So the wipers wipe so fast that they cover the visibility of the camera. Very, very strange issue. I found out when winter started, like last month here in Victoria, Australia. That's when I found out that I can't use lane keep assist with wipers on full. It does have automatic wipers, so it rarely goes on full. But speaking of automatic wipers, that's something that's not very consistent. Actually, it's one of my annoyances with the car. One of the annoyances is sometimes it doesn't work when it should, and sometimes it works when it shouldn't, if that makes sense. So it would be very light rain, or actually zero rain after the rain has stopped. It would still go. I'm not sure why it does that. And I don't like it when my wipers engage when there's no rain to lubricate. So I feel like it's sort of scratching the windscreen or just making noises sometimes. I don't like that. And sometimes it's too rainy and like, oh, why aren't you working? So I have to like manually wipe and it starts wiping. I don't know. I think like the sensors need improvement either on the next version or by software or something. That's something to keep in mind. car in front of me and I'm driving, 70 kilometers an hour on the main road, and it just thinks there's a car in front of me and starts braking. Not emergency braking or ABS, it just starts slowing down. It's like, oh, there's a car in front of you, look at the screen. It thinks there's a car in front of you, but there isn't really. I don't know, these things I don't understand. I've driven my brother's Arteon. It doesn't have either of those two issues, the windscreen issue or the false detection issue. Otherwise, the car's very comfortable to live with day to day. I use it as a daily to go to and from work. Mostly on the highways, sadly, not a lot of twisty roads to my workplace. But I drive the car hard when I can, being reasonable, of course, and following the laws. And on the weekends, I try to go to the city or go out in the country and enjoy the car where it should be, like it should be enjoyed. Such a joy to drive. I love this car. Yeah, daily driving it, it's so comfortable. If we talk about the suspension and the ride quality, I think it's just the right level of sporty but soft, and I wouldn't say soft, but just unharsh is what I'm trying to say. It is a low-ish car, and people do lower it even more. It is a low-ish car, so it is annoying to go over speed bumps and sometimes very, very steep driveways or petrol stations. I have struggled, so I have to take things very slow. One time, there was an intersection that it was so steep, I had to leave and just take another route. The intersection was pretty much down and then up, so it was very, very steep. I was like, I'm gonna lose my front splitter if I go through this intersection, so I just changed to a different intersection. Drive modes actually do something. So you've got your steering, throttle, yeah, there's a lot of induction and exhaust noise. I'm not sure if I mentioned this car is modded, so I've got exhaust, NVIDIA R400 and a PRL cold air intake. Other than that, it's essentially a stock car. Yeah, so drive modes. You've got your suspension, steering, and throttle. Those and rev match. Those three are gradually elevated and made more sporty the more up, the higher you go. So in comfort, rev match is kick back. It doesn't always engage, and when it does engage, it is mellow and controlled. In sport, obviously steering becomes a bit heavier and your suspension becomes a bit more firmer. You feel a bit more of the bumps, and your throttle is more sharp. Plus R, it's sort of, the sportiest. Again, not a huge change in the suspension. It is still comfortable in Plus R. I wouldn't recommend using it for long periods of time just because the tires are so thin on this car. Only 30 aspect ratio, 245/30, 20 inches. So I don't like to stay in Plus R too much unless I'm driving hard or in twisty roads where I want to enjoy the car. Sport is a good place to stay in unless you're daily in the car, so in which case I'd put it in comfort. But yeah, in sport mode everything's a bit more sharper, elevated, more sporty, and the thing I like is that rev match is more sharper. The threshold is lower to engage the rev match, and it will rev match all the gears in Plus R, whereas in comfort it wouldn't rev match if you're under 30 kilometers an hour. Under 30 kilometers an hour, or the revs are under 2000. So it can be frustrating when it doesn't work, but just put it in sport or Plus R. I'm pretty much home now, but I'm going to keep driving because I just love driving this car, and I need to get this review finished as well. It is a long video now, but I promise you'll learn something out of this. Yeah, it rides well. Steering is nice and sharp. I think it drives very, very well, and you're so confident and you're inspired to drive a bit harder and closer to the limit with this car. I would take turns at 60 kilometers an hour, whereas those turns I would take at 40 kilometers or 50 in my Camry, on my brother's Arteon. You're just so confident, and so it's like an extension of you, second nature. Everything's second nature. Just like the gear shifts are so satisfying, the steering is so direct and palpable, and you can know exactly where the car is going and how much steering you need. It's a nice short ratio, so you steer a little bit and the car goes more than you would think, versus on a like your mum's SUV, you'd need to turn the whole steering wheel just to go a little bit to the left, if that makes sense. It is more progressive steering. No problems with steering at all. I love the weights. I love the weights in comfort, sport, and plus I have no problems with those. And I wouldn't change anything about the steering. Very little torque steer most of the time, unless you're fully throttling it in the rain or on uneven surfaces. Let's go on third now. Put it in plus R, why not? Second. Just go and go and go, and the grips that you get with this car, the cornering speed is just incredible. I've had a couple of my friends here, and I'm not even on the best tires in the world. I'm on the stock Continentals, and they're also a few years old now, so not the best tires in the world to drive on. But yeah, it just grips so well. Like the mechanical grip with the suspension, it's a double wishbone and multi-link, and also just the size of the tires and the composure of the car. It's just, it's addictive. Just want to drive it everywhere, to be honest. It makes going to the shops something to look forward to. I haven't driven too many stock Type Rs. I think only one or two when I was shopping for this car. But yeah, I'm happy I settled on one with an intake and an exhaust. Those are the two things it really does deserve and need when you're buying this car. The stock one sounds like nothingness, and not a lot of intake sounds with the stock intake as well. Yeah, so that's ride quality and controls. Visibility is very nice in terms of the interior. I forgot to say, it's very spacious. It is a compact sedan or a hatchback, not a subcompact. So got very large boot space, something I really appreciate. I don't carry 4 people a lot of the time, but it is a 4-seater, and I've sat in the back. Legroom is very plenty. Like I said, 178 centimeters, so that's 5'10", almost. Headroom is very spacious. Sideways room is very spacious. Not a lot of amenities in the back, but you do have the red seat belts. Not even an armrest or cup holders in the back. Only the door storage that you have. The seats on the front are red. The ones in the back are black, unfortunately. But the seats in the back do come down. So I've used the car a lot. Like about half the time I have the seats down, just because for my business I have to transport a lot of boxes. If you look at on my channel, I have a lot of coffee machine videos. That's sort of my hobby / side hustle. Yeah. Jesus. I'm just gonna go up and down this road. Why not? Staying within the limits, of course. Yeah, it's front-wheel drive. I think if you're not following the car, you probably won't tell, but you do tell. That's one of the things that I don't like about the car. Now, before going to the negatives, I will say a few more positives. I love the reliability of the car. I mean, I've had it for 6 months, not one issue. Actually, not one mechanical issue, really. I have taken it to Honda for a service, and sort of did the service prematurely. It was a 50,000 kilometer service. I did it at 40,000 or 42. I think what happened is one of my brake shields or shrouds or something was a bit bent, so it was scraping against, I think the rotor or the wheel or something, and yeah, the car would make noises when steering or when the body just moves, which is very unsettling. But other than that, the car is very durable. I am reasonable. I don't floor it when cold. I don't rev it when the engine hasn't been on for like 10 minutes minimum. And I drive conservatively most of the time, but when I do drive in the limits, I've never had an issue. And I have taken it on one of the best places in Victoria for driving this kind of car, the Black Spur in the northeast of Melbourne. Yeah, I went up and down that Black Spur road, Black Spur Drive, I think it's called, like twice, and the car was for the most part very composed, very fun, and very reliable. I didn't have any heat soak issues or overheating, but the brakes did it was a downhill and a lot of twisties going at a high speed, so the brakes sort of gave up towards the very end, the second run. So if you were to track this car, something to keep in mind is to change either the fluid, change the brake fluid, or the pads. But other than that, yeah, very, very nice car. In terms of reliability, doesn't ask you a lot of things. Doesn't have a lot of, like, it doesn't have any really issues like in terms of the interior or the electronics so far. It's a 4-year-old car, or not 4 years old, sorry, 3-year-old car almost. Yeah, 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. Yeah. The last but not least, definitely not least, I left the best to the last. The power. This car is so stupidly powerful. I should have put it in the first part of the review. I realized that. Is that a GI Yaris? Oh no, it's just a standard Yaris. Absolutely love the power that this car gives. It's so addictive. Almost in every gear, every RPM, you just have more and more to give. It has more and more to give. Sure shit for days. Like I'm gonna slow down now. Go into second, fourth, third, fourth. I don't recommend flooring the car, you know, when you're between 1,000 to 2,000. But if you give it half throttle or partial throttle, it still just goes. So I don't really worry about, oh, am I in the right gear? I just drive it in as high gear as I possibly can. You know, fuel saving reasons and engine reliability reasons. It's better to be in slightly higher gears rather than lower gears. You don't want to be driving on the highway at 4,000 RPM for sure. But yeah, it's very easy to live with in terms of the gearing, and the power is just, yeah, like, you will be faster than 90% of the cars on the road, especially if you know how to shift and drive manual properly. It's not a drag race car, so it wouldn't be satisfying to drag race at traffic lights. That's one of the frustrations of the car, is that it almost has too much power for what it is. Oof, that's an Integra. I missed it. Yeah, it's like almost too good. It's like suffering from success, you know. 310 horsepower here in Australia, going to the front wheels. Maybe it's because I don't have the best wheels in the world, tires in the world. It's the stock Continental Sport Contact 6, which are okay, pretty good actually when you buy the car new. But the tires have been sitting for like 3 years. The previous owner hasn't used them. When I bought the car, it had like the PS4S, the Michelin Pilot Sport 4. Those ones people generally see as the best tire for this car, the PS4s, I should say. But yeah, like I get a lot of wheel hop, unfortunately, going to the negativity. As much as I love the turbo, I love the just. It's so much induction noise, so much power. It pushes you back in the seat. Put it in third, put it in second. Rev match works beautifully. Just sounds beautiful, feels beautiful. I don't know what else to ask in terms of the power. I mean, I don't understand what people do when they tune this car. It already has a lot of power. It doesn't make sense to put even more. If I were to get more than 310 horsepower, it'd start just burning the front wheels all the time. But I guess people do track this car, and that's why they would tune it. But yeah, the turbo kicks in at about 2,500-3,000 RPM, then all the way up to like 5.5. That's when the car feels, you know, the most push back in your seat, thrilling-ish, thrilling type of feeling. But after I think 6,000, it's not a lot of pull. So I usually shift pretty early if I'm accelerating hard. I would shift at like 6. And plus, I don't usually floor it in first. That's going into the negatives of the car. It's because it's front wheel drive, because it has so much power, and because a lot of the time here in Melbourne it's raining, or it's subpar roads, or the tires that I have at the moment are not the best as well. So I get a lot of wheel spin. You know, forget flooring the car in first. It will almost always spin the wheels in first. Even I've seen a lot of 0 to 100 launches and drag strip. The car will spin its tires in first, unless you're in like super sticky surfaces with super sticky Cup 2 tires or slicks. But yeah, it's almost all like sadly I'll have to do this to the car, but I'll floor it now in first, going to the right. It will spin them, and you get a lot of wheel hop, which is not a nice sensation. It's like a juddering, shaking sort of feeling. It feels like you're braking the car even when you're not. In the wet, spin the wheels in second. I've floored the car in third, going on the on-ramp, and it's spun the wheels in third, believe it or not. So it's just crazy amount of power, not a lot of grip being a front wheel drive, you know, because the car tilts backwards when you floor the car and you're accelerating. But yeah, look, it's not a race car, it is still a road legal car, so I'm not too upset about this, but it's one of the reasons why I'm sort of selling the car. It's the fact that it spins the wheels a lot of the time if you push it hard, and the first gear is unusable, second gear is usable if it's dry and warm outside. The other negatives about the car, like I said, the infotainment, it's very frustrating. In the interior, visibility is great, I don't have any problems with that. I forgot to mention, yeah, visibility is great. It is a big car, a lot of room, very comfortable, and yeah, very usable interior. I think it's one of the most capable in terms of one of the most accommodating and livable hot hatches out there. Probably even more than the Golf R, if I were to imagine what that's like to live with. But yeah, power, infotainment. I guess lack of customizability of the drive modes, not a huge issue for me. Just thinking, what do I hate about the car? I mean, the stock exhaust isn't the best. It is front wheel drive, as I said. Not a lot of torque steer, not a great speaker system. I think not too many disadvantages with the car. You know, it is Honda Civic Type R. It's a Type R. It can't be too bad. And I think it's one of the better selling hot hatches, I would assume. And it maintains its market value for a reason. Everything makes sense. People love this car. People are always looking for this car, and it's, you know, the dealer's marking it up. There's a reason for that. It's desirable, and it's a future classic for sure. This rev match system is so good. It rev matches going down in the gears, downshifting. So going from third to second. But also, if you go from second to third, you will hold that revs so that when you let go of the clutch, it's at the right RPMs to not make you jolt. It's so easy to drive this car smooth, and it's so easy to drive it fast in terms of the gearing and the gear leverage. The shifts feel great. The clutch is so good. I mean, I've driven like 3 or 4 cars, so I don't have the best baseline knowledge of what cars feel like. But I've driven the GIRS, I've driven the Golf, and I've driven this. This is the best clutch and gear shift by a long shot. It's so easy to drive smooth, and the biting point on the clutch is noticeable, like you know where it is, but it's not too jumpy. It doesn't, you know, jump and makes you stall the car. The GIRS that I've driven, you let go of the clutch, you try to let go smoothly, but there's like a strong springy feel where it just pushes your foot back, and the bite point is just so short. I think it's easier to stall in that car versus this or the Golf. But yeah, every good thing has an ending, and I think one of the other reasons why I'm selling this car is the market. It's the right time to sell. If I were to hold on for the car for too long and add too many kilometers to it, I think I would start losing on the car, which not something I'm interested in. As much as annoying it is to let go Melbourne for work, but it's far. It's about 60 or 70 kilometers an hour just to go to work. And I also do things for my side hustle, and I also do, you know, school pickups and road trips and weekend outings. So they add up, you know, 6 months, 8,000 kilometers. You can imagine in a year it's 16,000 kilometers easy. So not looking forward to add a lot of kilometers to my car and make it more depreciate even more. And I assume maintenance wouldn't be a problem, but just the consumables of the car, you know, sport brakes, sport tires, wouldn't be cheap if you want things that if you want decent performance out of them. I have serviced the car at Honda here in Epping. It was like 500 to change all the fluids and do like the alignment and all that. Not cheap, 500 for a service, but you know, you pay for this kind of car, you have to take it to the right people. I could have taken it to a dodgy $100 service technician, mechanic, servicing, but I wanted to do the right thing for this car, so I've taken it to Honda. There's a lot of like performance shops as well. What am I getting next? I'm getting the Toyota GRS. I'm very, very looking forward to that car. Not to discount this car by any means, it is a beautiful car, but I think I'm ready to experience four-wheel drive. Every car I've owned to date is front-wheel drive, and yeah, after 6 months in a front-wheel drive, high-powered hot hatch, I think I'm ready for an all-wheel drive car. Looking forward to that car. I know it has a lot of downsides compared to this one, such as the size, the NVH, sort of the handling, not as good as this car according to the reviews, but hopefully some mods, there's mods that can alleviate those things, like LSDs to the GRS, exhausts, suspension upgrades, etc. So yeah, it's very sad to see it go. See, that was second, going 70 kilometers an hour on a cold day, fair enough. But it was wheel hopping in second. Let's try first. It's just so addictive. I'm trying to drive the car as much as I can and just enjoy its existence as much as possible before it's gone. I think the buyer is coming this afternoon. That was like 90% throttle. But yeah, if I go 100% throttle, it would spin the wheels. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but yeah, that's that. Absolutely love the car. It's sad to see it go. I'm repeating myself a lot now, I realize. I told you I'm not a professional YouTuber.